I released a new track last week, and you know what that means? We're gonna have a look into the project today. Hey, what's up? Husman here, and my new track, Who You Are, came out last week on Maximize Records, and I'm super grateful for all your awesome reactions to it. It was a track which started as like a natural follow-up to my track, Who We Are. As you can probably tell in the name, it was like a long journey finding the right name. If you have an idea what the next track in this series should be, leave it down below in the comments and I will take a look if we can do it like that. As you know, with all of my tracks, I really want to have a theme with my tracks, and this one I really want to go back to my vocal choppy roots, which I used to do a lot of the times back in the day when there was still main stage music. Think about my tracks Ultra or Who We Are, and a lot of other tracks where I utilized. I haven't been doing it a lot lately, but I felt like for this track I really want to go back to that and see if I can do that older style that I used to do in a 2021 style. And I think it turned out really well. I'm really happy with it, and I thought it would be really cool for you all to see how it looks in the projects, the decisions that I made, and how the track actually came about. So without further ado, let's have a look into the project. So I got the project in front of me, and let's first start with how this track actually started, and that's for me usually the melody. And the interesting thing about this melody is that it's not actually a full 8-bar loop, at least not the first way around. So it starts before the first bar. So as you can hear, I really want to go for evolving melody because it's really like da 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 da. It keeps going in the same rhythm, which is in my opinion a really nice flow. And the first thing is, you notice it doesn't start on the 1, it starts just before. And then if you look closely, it also stops like half a beat earlier and it goes into the next one because it really starts on the next note. And that's because I really want to keep the flow going. So how it's built up is actually a combination of super saws, and that's that trick I learned from hardstyle where you don't do a lot of melody in your super saw chord layer but actually use the chords. So that's how this sounds. And as you can see, as you saw probably already there's also that stop before it goes into the next bar. And if we then combine this with the second super saw, it does a little bit more of a melody. Combine these two. Then there's another super saw. The way you should see this, actually there's one playing the chords and two are playing some harmonies, but they're all not that loud in the mix because the main thing is happening here in the main lead group, which is this main lead, another main lead, and more of a saw-ish kind of lead. Now if we combine these three, and I believe I just put like on a group a glue compressor to bring them together, nothing too fancy. Combine that with the harmonies. And combine that with the chords. And then we also got some bass to accompany that because we need some lower tonality to it. And I have one little thing that I've been doing lately in my tracks is add a little bit of a revolving texture into it, and it sounds like this. Same with this one. This is like a sample that I found on Splice which I totally manipulated, and that really brings everything together. If you just play these two with the bass, It just gives a really unique texture which you can't replicate with synths, so I thought it was really cool. And then if you combine that whole layer, I believe there's nothing much here. Oh, actually there is. Ah, of course, some instruments. I got some weird pads as well. Some strings. And this I didn't even use anymore. I see it's just muted. And then there are just some effects to just give it an impact. Combine the whole layer. And of course that second part is a little bit different because I really want to give it a little bit of an alteration where you just tickle the listener again. So that's why I did with a cool glitch plugin. I didn't put a glitch on everything, I just put it on a new counter kind of lead. And then everything else has that telephone effect, so it's being muffled. So the usual leads will sound like this. But then there's another lead coming, which is more of a square lead, which on its own sounds like this. But I wanted to do like an effect where it really sounds like it's being destroyed, so it sounds like this with the deep blue glitch. And then combine that with some cool drums I have from Splice, which are like, sound like this. I really love these Travis Barker kind of sounds, just a little bit more of a rock feel. And then combine all of these together. So now you can already probably hear the first vocal chop. This is just a sample, which I just put six tones up and a totally different BPM. But let's go to the actual vocal sample, because I think you probably were wondering where I did get that vocal chop. And it's actually, let me look up the sample on Splice. This is actually the vocal hook that I used.
You're caught up in nothing, wasting your time in chasing stars.
And I thought to myself, chasing stars, I can probably make Who You Are from that. We're just playing with the syllables. And it sounds like this.
Who you are, 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 who you are.
And this comes down to just doing a lot of trying out different vibes, different rhythms with it. I think it turned out really cool, and I even made like a second layer, which is the vocoder. And this vocal is done via vocal synth, and I just play the notes of the chords, and then I just play the same thing. And then you can already hear, this is probably already the total break. It's just adding some part of the main lead in there. And adding that break bass, which I use in almost every track. Some reverse vox. And the same thing with this vocal. Sometimes I just like to destroy samples, and that's something I did here as well. Oh, here. So this is like the main layer of this sample. But back in the track, like in the drop, it sounds like. And I just do crazy stuff with the clip transposition. It's not that musical on its own, but if you combine it with the rest. And now that you know I did it, it might sound a little bit weird, but in the track you will not hear it that much being an issue. Now the next thing that I want to look into is actually the build up into the main drop melody. The drop melody is pretty simple, but it's just a really playful, fun kind of melody. But I didn't want to do the usual build up where you just take the intensity away and then bring it up again. I really want to directly hit into the main melody, and that's something that I did with just bringing out the full drop melody out there. You can hear the heroic synth just as a fill here. I just like it sometimes to bring that sound back, but not as the main sound. And why this actually works is I actually use the last bar of the melody I build up towards the first note of the drop melody. So when we listen to and that dit is also the first note of the drop melody, which I think is really cool. A really cool way to make a transition without having to blend everything with effects. Of course you use a little bit of effects, but this is actually, I think, a much more musical way to do it. Like this is that fill. So I used one little arp, and then I used that heroic lead. Now, let's go to the drop then, shall we? The drop is actually just a big room kick that I made myself. I just have a short kick here, which is like the tone of the kick. And then I just used another big room kick, but I just used the tail of this one. Just made it as a sub. If we combine the two, super simple. But this way is a great way when you go in different kind of keys. You can just switch around the tonal, the sub part, and then you can keep the kick the same. Same what they do a lot in hardstyle nowadays. They just have a punch and then a lot of tail going on. The tail is being transposed, not the punch. Combine this with another more of a groovy sub. And you can see here in the EQ is that I don't use a lot of the total low end because I already got that covered with this one. So this is just to give a bit of a groove. And then I got like a punch bass. It's just a little bit of a groove, a helper for the groove. But there's actually one bass, let me look it up, it's more of a hardstyle tail. So I have this sample from a pack from, I believe, oh, it's from Zen World, which is like a really cool Reese bass, which sounds like this. But I thought, what would happen if I would just use just the body of it, just a start, and use that as sort of a bass layer on top of it. And I think it turned out really cool, which on its own it sounds like this. And that's again just to accentuate and give the kick a little bit more of a gritty feel. So when we start combining the bass with the rest of the sound, and it might now sound a little bit silly, but in the whole mix you don't hear it as clear. If you combine it as well with like a bass shot on the beginning. Come thinking now, if I listen to my music like this without the leads, it's not that sounding too well. So let's bring the drop leads in, and the drop leads are actually, this is one layer. It's actually the main saw lead. It's more of a hardstyle, big room, hybrid kind of lead. Then we got a super saw, which is more of a cleaner super saw. Again, another super saw, and then I brought in the leads again. So just to, I don't like it when I hear a track which is like just a simple saw. You hear that a lot of big room where you can just easily almost hear which preset they use. So I try to combine a lot of presets and a lot of self-designed sound design to create something that sounds just that little bit more of unique while still keeping the big room feel. And I feel like when you combine like a melody which is moving also with a bass that is changing, that always gives it that cool. And that's actually something that I learned from Blasterjaxx as well. They do a lot of their tracks, a lot of movement in the bass, which if on first glance you don't hear, but once you go listening deeper into their tracks, you hear they do a lot of movement in the bass. And I thought, if I'm going to maximize with this new track, let's try to also incorporate a little bit of that style. And I really liked it, so that was really cool. That's actually it for the main drop. There's still quite a few things that I want to show in the second break, and that's always tricky when you don't have a vocal to work with and when you have two breakdowns. You really want to make sure that the second breakdown is interesting as well. And one thing that I like to do a lot is just use an arpeggiator. And with this one also did some really nice subtle piano part. And this is like a really weird pad that I got from Splice as well. It's from a virtual ride preset. And now comes the final part I want to show for this video is actually this. I bring back the melody of the vocal, like the vocal chop, but I do some changes in there. But I also make like a little bit of a counter melody to the main lead, which I think is a great way to just keep the listener a little bit more interested in the track and not just do copy paste. So how it sounds on its own. So not that's not what we're going to do right now. It's just to accompany the rest of the break. And then we're back at the main melody and then short build up with like a vocoder. And here it's just cool to do like just a contrasty build up because we already know what's gonna happen next. We just want to build a little bit of that tension. And then for this one as well, since I had some extra time on my hands, I want to do the build up a little bit differently. So here I just make the melody go up. And that's basically how I made Who You Are. I really hope you enjoyed this walkthrough of how I made the track and the decisions that I've made. Who You Are is still, of course, available on all your favorite streaming platforms, Spotify, iTunes, you name it. Now, also the new Patreon packs for July are out. I actually put a really cool thing in there, the main lead layer of Ninja as an Ableton project. So if you want to learn how I made the Ninja melodic breakdown, head over to my Patreon and become a patron, become a really cool growing family on the Patreon page. Also lots of new sounds for you this month, so I'm really looking forward to hear what y'all think of the new sounds. Now, one more thing about my video game. In October there's the Steam Fest and I've been invited to showcase the demo of Wrath of the Mad King there. So if you haven't already, go wishlist Wrath of the Mad King. That helps me as the developer of the game a lot because then the algorithm gonna pick it up, gonna see that much more people are interested in the game. Wishlisting doesn't cost you anything, it's just letting Steam know that there's interest in the game. So of course you don't have to buy the game, but it would help me a lot as the creator of the game. So the link is below and it would really mean a lot to me. We're almost at 500 wishlists and would love to get more than 500 wishlists before the game goes into full demo at October. So that's all for me this week, and you might be wondering when is the new music coming out. Actually this month we're gonna keep it rolling now until the end of the year with lots of cool new music that I've been making. Now something else that's been growing is my Discord community. On Discord I give a lot of feedback to artists, to producers. So if you want to be part of the growing producer community, where I will be doing some live streams as well, where you can join me and just have a chat with me about everything regarding to my game, to the music, feedback and such, head over to the link below. There's the Discord and I hope to see you all there. But that's it for this video. Really hope you like it. If you like what I do, hit that like button. If you haven't already, subscribe, and I see you all on the next video. Take care. Bye bye.